Take a Man podcast from Odyssey Sports. Logan Paulson there, Craig Hoffman here. We're back at Tap Sports Bar this Sunday for the Take Command pregame show ahead of the game against the Falcons. Hopefully Logan Paulson Bowl 2 goes better than Logan Paulson Bowl 1 on the season, but we'll preview it starting at 10 a.m. Doors open at 11. Come join us. And if you can't join us in person, of course, we are live on 106.7 The Fan, the Team 980, and both stations' YouTube channels. Okay, Logan, I want to talk about a couple of individual players real quick, and then we'll get to the offense. If you're Ron and Jack, like, what do you do with Emmanuel Forbes? Because you benched him the other night. He's had issues. I think that some of these issues are probably solvable with some more discipline, some more reps. So. Some of them, I don't know if they're as quickly solvable, or are they more off-season things. So what do you do if you're them with your first round pick?
Well, I think just looking at some of the mistakes that he's made or some of the issues that he's had, I would say that while they're not good and the protection's not that good, I do think he's flashed some really good stuff in terms of coverage. Like even the one that's the explosive play to Moore, like he's in pretty good relationship. And I was listening to a national podcast earlier this week, and they're like, that's probably offensive PI. And I don't disagree with that. You know, the way he kind of lowers his shoulder on the guy and creates the separation, that's going to happen. Like that's good route running also. So I understand why they didn't call it. But overall, he's in pretty good phase. The thing that I have been a little disappointed with him just in general is his just lack of physicality. And I think that's more of a mindset thing, you know, just saying, hey man, we're in the NFL. Like, let's make that tackle, you know, like let's be a big boy here. Let's make this tackle. I don't care if it looks ugly. I don't care if you're hanging onto his shoelaces. Let's get that guy in the ground. And I do think that's something that's just an effort thing and a mindset thing, an approach thing that can be fixed. And I don't think we're talking about it in the same context if he makes that tackle, right? There's the other one where it's a hitch and he goes for the PBU. I'm also like, hey man, like there's times and places to engage with super risky behavior. Like the one at the end of the game where it's 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 2 and Fuller goes for the pass breakup on the hitch to Moore. I'm like, the game is on the line. If we don't get this stop, the game is over anyway. I'm totally fine with you rolling the dice there. Rolling the dice in the middle of the second quarter is probably not what I want. So I think all of these things happen when you have a young player. And this is one of the things that in my evaluation, I went back and checked my notes. I was like, he tends to gamble more than I would like in college. And he gets away with it because he's super fast. He's really long. He's very instinctive and he makes a lot of plays. And so that's something you're kind of managing is the risk of his play style with the opportunity for explosive plays. Now it's about saying, and I think honestly, Chase Young went through a similar process early in his career. Guys are bigger, stronger, faster. They're more intellectual in terms of football IQ. The stuff you did in college just doesn't work the same way. It's not going to happen in the same context. So I think that's so important for players to understand. Like stuff I could get away with in college, no way I could get away with now. So one small example, the smallest example I can give you is just snap count. In college, you think you're getting off on the snap count. Wide 80 said Hut. I'd go on Hut. I'd go block my guy. In the NFL, I felt like I was late on every single block. And Cooley kind of came up to me and was like, hey, man, when are you getting off on the ball? And I was like, well, like when everybody else is. And he's like, come here. And he showed me the film and he like freeze framed it. And I was like 2 frames behind everybody else. And I was like, what the heck's going on? He's like, go talk to the center. So I went and talked to Will Montgomery. He's like, I don't snap it on set. I snap it on like the S of set. And so I was like literally a full word behind everybody in terms of cadence. And that's something that just takes time and experience in terms of understanding what you can do in the NFL. And it made me a better football player. He will go through a similar maturation. Now, I think it's frustrating because he's a first-round pick, but I think you see the talent that he brings. You see the upside. You see the potential. So for me, it's just about he's got all the physical tools from a coverage standpoint. Now it's just about teaching him, hey, let's use this technique when he's going to bump on you. Let's give him a little tug. Let's do this. Let's get in this position. Let's work my feet here in a better way. And I think those are all things that can be worked on and be corrected. It's just going to take a little bit of time, much like the grace we've given Sam Howell with some of his mistakes. I think you're going to see a similar thing here with Forbes. So I know a lot of people are like, he's terrible. He's a bust. I think that is such an overreaction. He's going to go through growing pains. He's going through growing pains. That's fine. The physical skill set is there. Again, I just would like to see him kind of engage with a more physical mindset on a more down-to-down basis. Like there was a play later in the game where they're running a GT, and he's the run player. And they've got big Darnell Wright pulling the corner. And he's standing there, and he just gets steamrolled. I'm saying, man, you're 166 pounds. Go cut that guy's thigh board. Like, let's play smart football here. You don't want to take that guy on with your face. Let's make a big pile there and let our tacklers come make tackles. But I think that's the stuff you need to see from him more consistently. And I think that stuff is not easily correctable, but I think there are technical things that can be done to make him more effective.
I think step one is managing his confidence. And that's just a very human thing. Like
Sure.
when you've been the best, and that, like, this is what happens in college, in high school, and then in college, right? You're the freshman who comes in and you get picked on, and then you'll learn how to play. And by the time you're a senior, you're like, you're the one with all the tricks, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden you go to college and now you're the freshman again. And it's like, oh crap, how do you go? And then you rise up and you become a first round pick caliber player in college and in the SEC nonetheless. And then you're just a rookie. Like, no matter how good you were as a college player, you're a rookie in the NFL. And there's a level of ego and just like human management that has to happen if you're the coaching staff. And I do wonder, between decisions to bench or public comments, like, how are they doing in that? And that is individualized. Like, I crushed Rivera and Del Rio a couple of years ago for going after Jamin Davis the way they did, because I thought it was totally unfair. Turns out, like, it was actually the right play, because that Jamin's been a better player since then. And you know, how much does that actually have to do with it? I don't know, versus something else that clicked. But like, he didn't whatever it was, he didn't respond negatively to being called out publicly. Like, that was something that Jamin at the very least had a neutral, but seems to have a very positive reaction to. How is Forbes in that regard? Every guy's different. And so we'll see as time goes on how that plays out. And I know you disagree a little bit on this with me, or a lot on this with me, but like, I think the weight's an issue. Like, I look at that play and go, yeah, is it OPI? Yes, but Kendall Fuller doesn't get thrown as far. You know, Benjamin St-Juste doesn't get thrown as far. Like, it's a simple massive, like, it's physics. Like, if you're lighter, a force is going to push you farther. And so I think the separation at some of the top of these routes that's happening, where he can't quite get back in the play and get a PBU or a pick, or it's a harder tackle to make because the receiver has a little bit more time to get his balance and make a move. Like, I think that's influenced by the fact that hasn't learned how to play in the NFL with this level of, like, it coincides with your point, right? It's at this level of physicality at his size. And he's either going to have to, in the offseason, put on weight, or he's going to have to figure it out. He's going to have to figure out different leverages and different things. And I don't mean leverage like coverage leverage. I mean like human physics leverage. Where's his body position to not get taken advantage of in those ways, the top of route, when a guy throws you off, like, or you're going to have to get better at flopping and draw some more flags. Like,
well, one of the things I'd say, just as a response to that, is in training camp, we watched him like go up against Logan Thomas, and Logan Thomas is trying to big body him at the top, and he figured out a way. I think it was like soft inside shoulder, pull with left hand, break up here, right? Understanding of like when the contact is coming. So he's done it. We've seen him do it. He did it with Terry, did it with Jahan. Like, he has the ability to do it. I think it's just about finding that level of consistency with the techniques that you see Fuller deploy or St-Juste deploy when they're getting that.
Like, we also know that training camp physicality is different than NFL game physicality.
But like, to me, like, at least you've seen a roadmap for it, is what I would say. And again, like, the physicality is different, but in one-on-ones, like, when you're going for it, like when you're at, like, in those hyper competitive situations, I don't know, man. Like, going against Terry McLaurin in a one-on-one and finding a way to kind of manage that contact, I think it's not the same, but it's close, you know.
It's
and I
close
think
enough that I feel like he can figure it out, but he hasn't yet.
Right.
And I think that's where we are right now at this point going into week 6.
And also, like, again, like the coverages and the rules and all that stuff we don't know. And so maybe there's some stuff there. But I do think, yes, I think the reason I'm confident that he'll figure it out, I guess is what I'm saying, is because I've seen him utilize some techniques and approaches that have allowed him to be in better position. And I think a lot of people, I can hear it in the comments already. I'm like, I've got like a sixth sense here. Like, people are like, well, Christian Gonzalez figured it out. And I haven't watched a lot of Christian Gonzalez because I've been watching all this team. But what I would say is we don't know what kind of matchups Christian Gonzalez is drawing. We don't know what kind of coverages they're playing. And so, like, I look at Forbes, and he's drawn some really, really tough matchups. A.J. Brown, that's a tough matchup. You know, DJ Moore, that's a tough matchup. And so, as critical as we're being, like, he is literally getting thrown into a crucible of fire here of having to play against really, really good football players. And I look at the A.J. Brown matchup, actually, and I'm like, he was very competitive in some very physical catch situations. Like, there was that comeback that A.J. Brown ran, and he tried to big body him at the top, And Forbes is like, no, dude, I'm going to use my feet. Here we go, PBU. And so he has shown an ability, even in big time against big time players, of managing that. But in that same game, we talked about the double moves, right? So here it's like, can you bring some of that which you used against AJ Brown against DJ Moore? And I think DJ Moore is one of those guys, quite honestly. He's not a big man. Kind of reminds me of like Steve Smith a little bit. I know he's one of your favorite players in the sense that like he's small, but he plays big. And so
He plays huge, and he's really tough to bring. Like, in fairness to Emmanuel Forbes, tackling DJ Moore sucks.
Yeah, it's not like a fun thing. He's like a running back. So what I would say is, like, as you play more, you get to know what works. Like, I remember the first time I played against DeMarcus Ware, and he totally sunned me. Like, absolutely, it was like, get out of here. Like, what are you even doing on the field? And I was like, oh no, this is going to be a very, very difficult time for me. But you don't know. It's like you don't know. It's like the Matrix or something. You don't know the new reality until you've seen what guys can do on the field. And you don't get that oftentimes until you're on the field. Like, I didn't know what 35-inch arms felt like until he just planted his arm in my chest. And I was like, I need to develop a plan for blocking people with long arms. And then you do something, and then you're like, okay, this works. I'm going to continue to do this. So it's a process. It's a journey. I think he's fully capable of making that journey. It's just about, like you said, managing his confidence. And then him being a student of the game, which I think he is, having talked with him, and he's a good kid. He's going to learn from Fuller. He's going to learn from St. Just, find what works for him, and develop, like Smoot always says, develop your file, develop your Rolodex on what guys do and how to watch film and prep for guys that are good football players. Like, that's the thing about the NFL. Like, you are going to see something, especially as a rookie, each and every week that you've never seen before from a physicality standpoint. And think about AJ Brown, big kind of hulking dude, right? DJ Moore, super quick, sudden, kind of compact body style, very, very different. You're going to see something different every week, and just about saying, okay, this worked against DJ Moore, that might also work against Tyreek Hill or whatever body type you want to compare, right? So I think that's a process that's going to take time, and I'm excited to watch it, quite honestly, because it's one of the fun things about rookies in the NFL.
To be clear, I very much agree with everything you said. Like, it's just diagnosing the problem, but I have a lot of faith in Emmanuel Forbes to figure it out. He seems like a tremendous kid who works really hard. He's really smart. Like, I think he will figure it out. My biggest question is, like, how is he managed between now and, figuring out as an ongoing process that comes in layers. But how do you manage him in the meantime to keep him productive? Real quick before we get to the offense, bad news yesterday, no other way to put it. Derek Forrest hurt in this game. He's going to go on IR. He's going to be out for a while. No. Jeremy Reeves also hurt in this game. So you're now down not just Forrest, but potentially the guy you used to back him up. How do you Percy Butler has not had a very good year. PFF at least says. I mean, he's been near the bottom of the grades, and he hasn't played a lot, but he's given up some bigger plays. How do you see him fitting in? And then also Quan Martin, time to get your defensive snaps, kid. Strap up, time to go. How does this affect them?
I mean, obviously it's a big deal because I think Forrest is pretty good. I like what Percy's done. I think it's the same thing you run into. He's a young football player, and so he's kind of realizing what he can do and what he can get away with also. But I like Percy. I like his approach. I like his physicality. And I think he's going to get better as you go. And I think, like we talked about the touchdown that he gave up and how I don't know if I'd coach him much differently, on the touchdown that he gave up in the game. I think you're relying on the rush to get there. But like to your point, your original point, this is going to be tough, right? You got a lot of people coming in and playing new spots. Depth at the safety position was kind of a strength. Now it's a weakness all of a sudden. You got Quan coming in, and Quan was basically playing backup nickel for a long time. And now he's got to learn all your safety rules. So all these things that make this defense good in terms of man match and aggressive combinations and who's rotating to the box and all those things that make this defense good are going to be much more challenging to do because you got a new piece back there. So how does he fit in? Do you put Cam back there and put him at nickel? We'll see. But again, there's going to be a little bit of musical chairs to kind of find the best combination of people to get on the field. But it's always tough losing good football players, and this is why coaches get paid and why scouting departments get paid. Is what is the solution to this, and can you develop guys, and can you get people where you want them to? So I feel really bad for Percy and for Reeves. So hopefully they get better quickly. But
for Forrest and for Reeves, Percy coming in. Excited for that opportunity. They called up Terrell Burgess from the practice squad as well. So there's your depth. And we'll see, obviously, how that affects special teams, too, which hasn't exactly crushed it, although I think it's probably been fine. But Percy was obviously one of their main gunners, and Quan has been as well. So we'll have to see how that affects that.